Hi everybody, welcome to today's webinar on Adventuron in the classroom with me, Sarah's manager host, and Chris Ainsley as your presenter, whom I'll shortly introduce. I'm the CAS Community Outreach Manager for the North East, Yorkshire and Cumbria, so I'm responsible for managing the communities in that area and supporting the community leaders. This webinar is part of the CAS Virtual Showcase, which is a 2-week window of webinars designed to support the CAS community. During the session, please use the question window on the right-hand side of your screen to ask questions, and I'll just stop Chris at relevant bits if you need me to ask him something as he's doing these slides. So don't use the chat box, use the question box. All attendees are in listen-only mode. The top of the window's got an orange rectangle which can be expanded or collapsed. If you're using social media today, and we'd love you to do that, the hashtag for this event is #CAS Virtual 20. And I'm sure Chris will tell you what his hashtag is once it gets started. And for now, I'll hand you over to Chris. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this session is called Adventuron in the classroom. Now, first thing is that no note-taking is necessary. On the final slide, there are links to the tutorial that we'll be going through and the sample game that we'll be looking at as part of the tutorial. So the agenda is going to be a brief introduction, basically to myself and Adventuron, how to play a text adventure game, because Adventuron is a text adventure game creation system, so you really need to know what one of those games is. And then finally, how to make a text adventure game. We'll make a very simple game using Adventuron. About myself, I'm a software engineer. I have a degree in software engineering from University of Teesside. I'm the author of Adventuron. I specialize in data modeling, which actually is quite relevant to Adventuron. And I'm very interested in computing education. I don't have a formal teaching background, but I was very inspired by my teachers at school and at university, and I'm really interested in computing education in general. So Adventuron. Adventuron is a text adventure authoring system. But what's a text adventure? A text adventure is a game which responds to voice or text commands. Now, in the old days, it would have just responded to textual commands, not voice, but these days we have better hardware. So here is a picture of a game, and this isn't representative of all games on there, but you can see that there is a place where you are, location where you are, things inside that location, places where you can go, and then there's a section which is the cursor prompt where you can type things in, or you can talk to the game. So in this case, you could use the keyboard on your phone to type in get coin. If you're on desktop, you could use your keyboard to type in take coin or get coin, and then the game would tell you what happens in response to that command. Now that's a very simple command, but as you'll see, there are lots of complex things that you can do with this concept. Adventuron helps children to create story and puzzle driven games. Now in the screenshot there, that's more of a puzzle driven game, but you can create quite narrative heavy games in there, so you can tell the story of something if you want to, or you can just create a puzzle box. Children's creations can be played on any device for the modern web browser. So you can see there, I'm just holding the image, it's playable on a mobile, but you can actually play it on a desktop or on a tablet, and there is development going on so you can play it on Alexa or something like that, or Google Home. Text adventure games can have as many or as few graphics as you wish. So just because it's a text adventure game doesn't mean that there's no graphics, doesn't mean there's no animations or sound effects. You can add all of those things in. The text adventure refers to the means of communication that you're submitting commands. So Adventuron can be used to teach beginner level coding, because it's very simple. If you're interacting with text, text in, text out, you're not really interacting with high level 3D graphics. So that's beginner level coding. Logical thinking, because you have to think through the story, you have to think through the puzzles, you have to think through A leads to B leads to C. Creative writing, you can write characters inside this world that are funny or that are sad or tragic. You can create any world that you want to with text. So if you can write something down, then you can make a world from it. So it's very literary in that way of doing things. Art and design, so you can design images that go inside of these games, and design, there is a whole subject around game design, and logical thinking ties into that. So it's very good for stimulating children's minds. Empathy, so you can put lots of characters inside your games, you can give them motivations, you can make the player feel I guess, afraid of the character, or you can make the feel sad for the character, feel happy for the character. Children can design whatever story they want, and you can put whatever feeling you want into that story, and more. So there's a lot more to this, but that will do for now. So now I'm going to show you some screenshots from a game called The Witcher's Apprentice by Gary Francis. Now, there are going to be 3 screenshots here. And this is just to show you the kind of flow that you might get in a typical game. Now, these games are blocky, but if you want your games to be more modern using photos, that's perfectly fine. Traditionally, these games have this look to them. So we're outside the Witcher's house now, and there's a front gate. And normally in these types of games, there are things that invite you to try certain things. So obviously, if you're in front of a gate and it's a game, you might try typing in something like open the gate. And what would happen in response to opening the gate? The gate would open. So the game tells you the gate opened, and you get a kind of reward from that as well. The game told you the gate opened in terms of the graphics. So kids kind of like that feedback loop. Now, if it was just click a button that says open the gate, it doesn't give as much of a reward as the children deciding what they want to try. You're free to try anything. The world is your oyster in text adventure games. And that's what a lot of the text adventure game aficionados really like about the genre, that you have the complete freedom to try everything. The game probably doesn't respond to everything that you try, but at least you have that ability to try everything. So now what we're going to do is we're going to play a simple text adventure, and we will get to the coding, but we have to go through this just because I don't know what the familiarity with the genre is for the audience. So we're going to take a look at a game called The Cave of Magic. Now, The Cave of Magic is a very, very small game, and all this kind of grand things I'm saying about story and narrative, there's none of that really in here. This is just to teach you the basic concepts. So I'm going to quit this game just to go back to the beginning. So we're in the Cave of Magic, and this is just the introduction section. It's going to ask me if I want to switch on the tutorial. I'm going to say yes. So you can see there, not everything is typing in text. You can select options as well, so you can have multiple choice inputs. It says here, note all commands in this game should be 1 or 2 words. This is telling the player how to play the game. So we're by the side of a beautiful lake. We can go north. The tutorial is telling us that we can type north or N. So we're going to type north. So north is compass direction. And unfortunately, in text adventure games, you kind of have to learn this convention. You have to know at least north, south, east, west, which is the purpose of this game. It's kind of a tutorial for people that have never played these types of games before. So north. So now we're on a forest path. Tall trees stand overhead. It's trying to make us aware of those trees. But the tutorial says that we can go north or we can go south. And south will obviously lead us back to the lake. So north will lead us onwards. So you can hear there's a sound effect there. You can wire up sound effects to whatever event you want in the game. So in this case, it's the troll being not very nice. The troll is saying, the cave is mine, go away. So the purpose of this game is to enter the Cave of Magic. I think I skipped past that in the introduction section. So the Cave of Magic is further to north. If we type in north here, we're going to ignore the tutorial just for a second. The troll is guarding the cave, so we can't go north. So it's telling us that we should try talking to the troll or looking at the troll. Now, normally this wouldn't be handed to us on a plate, but because this is a tutorial game, it's telling us what we should do. Talk to the troll. I'm so hungry, says the enormous troll in the deepest possible voice. So in this game, it seems that the troll wants some food. So maybe you should look at those trees you saw earlier to the south. So we can go back to the south. So we could type in south, or we can click or touch. So that will lead us back to the forest path. And then we have these trees here. And the convention in these games is to look at something or to examine something. So we can say, look, trees. Apple trees. And so we might think at this point, why don't we take an apple and give it to the troll? Now, this is inviting creative thinking in children, but this works on 2 levels. Firstly, as you're playing the game, it's inviting you to think creatively about the scenario that's in the game. But if you're the author of the game, if you're a student and you're putting a game like this together, you have to think about the flow of the game. You have to think about how to drop clues for players, for other students. So designing the game is part of the fun of all of this. So it's not just playing the game, it's designing this game. So we're going to pick an apple now. You take an apple from one of the trees. So now we know that the troll is to the north. So the troll says, the cave is mine, go away. Maybe you have something for the troll. So we know that the input should be 2 words. So maybe we can give the apple to the troll. The troll grabs the apple from you hungrily. Unfortunately for the troll, the apple is an enchanted apple and sends the troll directly to sleep. Now, if we take a note of the screen there, you see an enormous troll at the top, guarding the cave to the north. Now, when we hit a button, you see an enormous troll sleeping. Now, if we go to the north, which we couldn't do before, you're inside the Cave of Magic, you see a pile of treasure, congratulations, you've won the game. Now, obviously, this is a very, very trivial game because it has to be small enough for us to cover in the coding tutorial, but you can see there was an obstacle, there were a couple of clues, and there was a resolution to the game. The game was, you have to get inside the cave. So that is a demonstration of a very, very, very simple text adventure, and there are almost 50 games that you can try out written in Adventuron. Almost all of them are more complex than this game. So, and then there's a little plug, and I'm not going to go through that because we don't have time. And so this is a typical text adventure game. Now, if we move back to the presentation, which is, there's only really one more slide left, how to make a text adventure. So we're going to look at Adventuron Classroom now. And I don't know how we're doing for time. 10 minutes has gone by. Are there any questions at this stage?
No, we're all right for now, Chris. Carry on.
Okay, I don't know if I'm blasting through it too fast.
No,
Okay,
you're not.
let's go to Adventuron Classroom. Okay, this is Adventuron Classroom, and this is the editor, and it's very scary in this form because you just have a blank page, and what do? There's no documentation there. Well, actually, there is documentation. If you go down to the menu, documentation, if we click that, it will go to the documentation, and there are all sorts of tutorials. Tutorial, we click Tutorial A, the Cave of Magic, and that is the written tutorial of everything we're going to do now. But I'll leave that alone. We'll just do it without the written tutorial. But if you want to go and access the tutorial yourself, you can go to the documentation, tutorial section, Tutorial A. So you don't need to make a lot of notes. Inside this editor, Control and Space is everything. Control and Space is a button combination that allows you to code complete. Code completion is essentially a context-sensitive template that you will get in different locations in the game. So if I hold Control now, this is what I'm doing on the keyboard, and if I tap Space, it will give me a template of a game. Now, I could have made Adventuron appear like that, but actually it's quite fun to see the template appear. And this is a template of a game. A game has a start location, start at, in this case, is my location. The description of the location, it has some connections between locations and things inside the game. We're going to fill all of these things in. But for now, if we just click the play, save and execute, you are in a room. So it's a very kind of oppressive look there, but you are in a room, that's all there is. But we can still type in north, south, east. It's aware of the standard commands, but there's really nothing inside there. So what we're going to do now is create the world of a Cave of Magic. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create the lakeside. So we can say lakeside. So you are by the side of a beautiful lake. And so what I did there is, this is the identifier of the location. So this is how we will refer to it in other parts of the code, and this is the description. And I know this must seem quite foreign right now, but it's will become second nature. So to create another location, we go inside the location section, we press Control Space, and we get another template up. So what we will do now is the forest. You are in a forest. I forget the text of this, but tall trees stand overhead. It's important to get that word in there, trees, just so the player knows to examine those trees. Now what we're going to do is outside cave. And we can't put a space between these identifiers, so we put the underscore there. And again, that's in the tutorial if you follow it. So, so you are outside the Cave of Magic. One more, inside cave. you are inside Cave of Magic. Now, we have an error here, attention required on line 5. I'm sure that some people can imagine how to resolve this error. So my location should refer to an instance of the following, location or page. So we started at the lakeside, so we could just copy. So I press Control-C here, and I can press Control-V here, and now it's resolved the link. There was a broken link there. If we press play now, so we're by the side of a beautiful lake, but if we go north, that should lead to the forest, but we haven't created the connection between the lakeside and the forest yet. So that's what we will do next. Incidentally, on the right-hand side here, if I delete that, I can press Control-Space here, and it will give me everything that's a valid option. It won't give me anything that's not appropriate here. So we select lakeside again. So press Control-Space, we want to go from the lakeside. We can press Control-Space again, and we type the first few letters. So I'm typing N-O-R, and it will just give me everything with that collection of letters in. So if I press Enter here, it will give me north. And if I press Control-Space again, so I went north to the forest. Now I go to a new line just by pressing Enter. I press Control-Space again, forest, and I can press the down arrow twice there, north to the outside of the cave. I press Enter to get to a new line. All of these connections have to be on a new line. Control-Space, outside cave leads north to inside cave. So now if I press play again, you can see that those connections have just become available. So I can just click north, north, north. But obviously I'm in the Cave of Magic there, and I'm not winning the game because the game doesn't know about the rules yet. So, but what we have is we have connected up locations there. Now, what we can do is we can add in some graphics as well, just to give us something to look at. Now, Adventuron doesn't feature a graphic editor, but you can actually import graphics pretty easily. If you put graphics inside a zip file, and this is kind of outside the scope of this particular session, but if I select import, and then if I select graphics, what it's going to do is it's going to import a bunch of graphic assets at the bottom there. We're not going to take a look at them, but you can see one of them is named Forest. If I turn off word wrap, one of them is named Forest, inside cave, lakeside, loading screen, outside cave. Now, if these graphics match the names that we gave here, it will automatically associate the graphics with the location. This is all documented, so if this is a bit confusing, don't worry. So,
Chris, can I just stop you one sec? You've got a question. When you made a connection for north, does it automatically make the south connection to go back?
Yes. So if you wanted to make a one-way connection, I'll show you now. If I go lakeside, north, you could select north one way, but by default, north is a bidirectional connection. So if you say lakeside leads north to forest, the game knows that forest leads south to lakeside, and that's just to kind of speed things up.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. So just to demonstrate here that the graphics are now inside the game, we didn't really need to do much. All we need to do is have essentially some graphic files and put them inside a zip file or import them one by one, and they will become associated with locations. Don't worry about the graphics. If you don't understand the graphics, it's very well documented. So what we can also do is we can set up a loading screen as well. Loading screen. So in the gap up here, if I press Control-Space, it gives me everything that is a valid option. And I can go through them with a down cursor, but if I type the first few letters, L-O-A, loading screen, and then I select the graphic that I've just imported, which is one of them is the loading screen. And now when I start the game, I get the loading screen. So that's just a little bonus there. So now we want to put some things inside the game. And there are two types of things in the game, things that you can pick up and things that you can't pick up. And currently Adventuron doesn't distinguish between living things and non-living things, but in a future version it will. So obviously the apple is an object. So I've gone a little bit too fast there. So inside the object section, if you hold Control, tap space again, you get, because there are two things that are valid here, it gives you the choice of object or scenery. An apple is something that can be picked up and dropped. So we're going to select object, and then we type in apple. Now the name here represents the noun that the game understands the object by, and then this part inside the quotes is what will be printed out inside the game. So normally we need an article for this, so we'll say an apple. So, and the apple isn't anywhere at the start of the game, it's nowhere. So if I press Control space and I select scenery, I'm going to say that there's a troll inside the game. And if I press tab here, I can press tab or I can use the mouse to move here, but in this case I'm going to press tab, it moves here, and I can say an enormous troll. But in the case of the troll exists. The troll is already outside the cave. So if I press Control space here, which is inside the scenery object, and I say at, this is the start location of the troll. So I want to say that the troll is outside the cave. We also need another object to swap the troll for. So what we'll do is we'll create another scenery here, and we'll call this the sleeping troll. You may be wondering why there are two trolls if there's only one troll in the game. It's because what we're actually doing is we want to treat the sleeping troll differently to the awake troll. So the easiest way to do that is just to swap, to have a troll that represents a troll that's awake and a troll that's asleep. So the sleeping troll doesn't exist when the game starts. And finally, we will probably create some treasure, just that it's listed inside a pile of treasure. And that starts inside the cave. So, oops, let me press F11 again. So I know I sometimes go too fast. I'm inside this space again between the quote and the semicolon. If I press Control space inside here, I get at. And if I press Control space inside these quotes, I get one of the options is inside the cave. So if I press play, you're by the side of a beautiful lake. Tall trees stand overhead. The enormous troll is where he should be, and the treasure is where it should be. So, pardon me. So now we have a world at least full of two things, the troll and the treasure, and we have two objects that are waiting to exist. Now, what we want to do at this stage is maybe tell the player what the purpose of the game is. So this is going to be the first commands that we put inside the game. So commands happen in response to events that happen inside the game. So it may be that the player types something, it may be that the player moves somewhere, it may be that the game's just started. So these event handlers all start with on. So on startup, so when the game starts, what do we want to do? So just to go back through that, I select a blank line that's outside of every existing section. And I'm going to move these assets off screen because they're distracting, but you can read about them in the tutorial. So you press Control space on a blank line and you type in on, you select startup, and now the cursor is automatically in the right place inside the on startup section. Now we want to print something. So we'll type in PRI, print, you must enter the cave of magic. This will give the player a goal so that they know what they're supposed to be doing. And then we say press any key. So this will stop the game from proceeding onwards. And if I undo that, actually, I'll show you what happens if I don't have that. So if I click here, you see that you can't see this message because actually what happens is it prints it and then it immediately draws the screen. It like blanks the screen and then immediately draws this. So you have to kind of stop the game by saying this press any key. And what this will do is it will wait for the player to do something like click the screen, you must enter the cave of magic. Okay, that's the goal of the game. So these commands are all accessible with Control space, and then you select the one that you want, and we're going to go through quite a few of these. Now, what I will do is set up a block, a barrier. So if we we're quite free at the moment to go into the Cave of Magic. So if we go inside the Cave of Magic, nothing happens. So actually, no, we'll do the block first. So a block is a kind of barrier. Barriers are things inside the game that stop you from moving between locations under certain circumstances. So if I press Control Space and I say I want to block access to a location or zone, well, that sounds good. So if I type in here, I get this block section. I just type in block cave. And this location is blank because it doesn't know which location you want to block. So if we press on the right-hand side, the equals, if we press Control Space again, it will show us all of the options. So we want to block inside the cave. The message when we block the cave is the troll will not let you pass. And we want to add a condition. So at the moment, this is an unconditional block. It will just block you 100% of the time. So if we go to the north, the troll will not let you pass. But actually, we want this to be the troll can only block us if the troll exists. So if the awake troll doesn't exist, then we want to be able to get past the troll. So we say block when exists. So this block will only operate when the troll exists, not when the sleeping troll exists. So that's a block. So it stopped us from going into the cave, and it stopped us from winning the game.
Chris, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Somebody said, do the graphics have to be a specific size, or does the software dynamically resize the graphics to fit the window?
It can be any size that you want the graphics to be. Typically, you should try to make it widescreen aspect ratio, because if you make it taller than it is wide, you don't leave a lot of space for text, but it can be any size that you wish.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Okay. So now what we want to do is to create some win game conditions. So what we want to do is respond to when a location is drawn, when it's described. So when you enter a location, the location is drawn and described, and the graphic is drawn and the description is drawn. So if you remember in the game that we played earlier, when we were in the same location as the troll said the cave is mine. So we want the troll to have a little bit of a personality. So what we can do is we can create a conditional statement here. So if we press, I'll go back in the blank space again, press Control Space and type in on, and then select undescribed. So this is something that will run every time a location is described, but we want to be even more specific than that. So we want to say if. So this is a conditional block. It will only run code when certain conditions are true. So immediately the blinking cursor, I'm just doing a time check here. We've got 15 minutes, which is good. Press Control Space, and if we say if we are beside the troll, then print the cave is mine. You shall not pass. And I'm not sure that was exactly what he said before. Now, obviously, that's not very good English. You probably want to put some double quotes around that. Now, if you type double quotes, you'll find that you've got a bit of a problem, because Adventuron uses these double quotes to start and end the text. So what you actually have to do is you have to use the backslash quote. So the cave is mine, shall not pass. And so this will actually just print the double quote. It will ignore this, but it allows you to type in double quotes here. Says the troll. Now, if we press play, we go north and north. The cave is mine, you shall not pass, says the troll. So that actually makes it look like the troll is doing something and interacting with you. If you remember, when we encountered the troll, there was some sound effects. Now, I'm not going to go through the sound effects because we don't have time, but if you type in B-E-E-P, you can add some sound effects. You can even play some little tunes if you want to. Adventuron can play things like MP3 sound effects, and you can have sounds of the forest if you want. There are lots of things to play with multimedia-wise, but we're not going to code that right now.
Can I ask you a
Now, the other
question,
thing,
Chris? Chris,
yes,
sorry, interrupting you again. Just a quick question. Can you use single quote? He said, somebody's
yes, you
asked.
can use single quote. So single quote, because it's not the double quote. If you want to use single quote, that's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah. So sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. Yes, what we want to do now is set up a win condition. So when we enter the cave, the game was won. So we will set up a condition here, which is if we are at, and again, I want to just go backwards through this. I press Control Space, and if is the default. The if always comes up at the top because it's always the most useful. If, and I press Control Space again. There are lots of things that we can cycle through, but most things are in the form of is or has. So if we type in is at, so if we are at the inside of the cave, then we've won the game because that's the point of the game. There can be lots of different win conditions. So now we print, P-R-I, print, you have found the treasure, you win. Okay, so that will just print you have found the treasure, you win, but Adventuron needs to know that you won the game. So to do that, you press Control Space and type in win game. So what win game will do is it will essentially hold the screen in its current state so that you can see everything that's happening, wait for the user to click something or press something, and then when you click the button, it will send you all the way back to the beginning of the game to play it again. So it knows that you've won the game, essentially. So this is the win condition. Now, obviously, this isn't going to work while this block is in place. So what I'm temporarily going to do is remove this block, because otherwise we can't get inside the cave. So I'm going to press play here. If I go north, 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 you found the treasure, you win. Now, obviously, the text is slightly different in the game that we played, but we can elaborate on that later. Okay, and then it sends us back to the beginning, into the Cave of Magic, and we're done. Now, if I put the barrier back, the troll is blocking the cave again. So now what we need to do is to work on the apple puzzle. So to do that, we need to respond to what the player is typing. So the player has to type a few things in the game to win the game. The first thing they have to type is look at the troll or examine the troll to give you a clue or talk to the troll. So to do that, we go into the on command block. So we go inside this on command block, and we want to match what the player has typed. So if we type in talk troll or examine troll, now this semicolon in the middle means, and this is documented in the documentation, but what it means is that either of these will match. If the player types in examine troll or talk troll, it will match the next section. So if we type that, but we need more information. So we can only talk to the troll if we're beside the troll. So if we select if we are beside the troll and we type talk troll, the troll should give us a clue that it's hungry. Otherwise, the player might try all sorts of things. So we print out. Now I'm going to use a double quote here. I'm hungry, says troll. So if we go north and north, if we talk to the troll, I'm hungry, says the troll. If we examine the troll, I'm hungry, says the troll. And even if we look at the troll, I'm hungry, says the troll, because Adventuron understands that examine and look are roughly the same thing. So it does a little bit of work in the background for you. So this is a clue. We can essentially copy and paste this if we want to. and modify it for the tree. So, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to actually type it out fresh. So if we examine the tree or the trees, and if we say if we are at the forest, and this is, I'm whizzing through this because it's exactly the same logic as the talk troll. So we just want to print a clue. So we just say apple trees, because the player wouldn't naturally type in pick apple or get apple unless they had a clue. So they're going to have to type in examine trees first. So you can see now that if we type in examine trees, it doesn't work here. You see nothing special, but this if statement says that it will only work if you're in the forest. So if we examine trees, apple trees, and similarly, if we type in talk troll here, nothing will happen. You can't do that. So now what we have to do is to wire up the logic to get the apple. So a player can type in lots of different things to try to get the apple. So once they learn that these are apple trees, they might type in climb tree, pick apple, get apple. The only inputs we're going to deal with here are get apple and pick apple. So get apple, pick apple. And again, this semicolon between them, this is in the Adventuron documentation, but this just means that either of these will work, or either, depending on how you say it. So either of these will work. And we also need to constrain this. So we can't just type in pick apple anywhere and get an apple. So it needs to be in the forest. So if we say if we're, whoops, sorry, I just typed in Control Z there to undo. So if we are at I press Control Space again, the forest. Now, something interesting here is that you don't want to keep creating apples every time somebody types pick apple. So Adventuron has this thing called has not created. So if we haven't created something ever before, it means ever. So if we haven't created the apple and we're at the forest and we type in get apple or pick apple, then we should print you take an apple from trees. Let's say from a tree. And then what we can do is we can do two things here. We can either create an apple, which will create an apple at the current location, but we already told the player that they take it, so it should be in the player's pocket. So we have a command called pocket. So what pocket will do is it will put something inside the player's pocket. So we want the apple to be inside the player's pocket. And if we press play, if we type in get apple, can't find it. But if we type in get apple here, it will work. But usually the player wouldn't try it unless they've examined trees first, and then they would type in pick apple. You take an apple from the tree. And we didn't go over this, but to look inside the player's pockets, you can type in inventory. And you can right click inside here, and you have this kind of contextual command inside Adventuron. So Adventuron will let you see what you're carrying with you. So in this case, we're carrying the apple. We've picked up the apple. But when we started the game, just to confirm that, we didn't start with the apple. We were carrying nothing at the start of the game. Now, there is one more piece of logic that we need, which is to swap the troll out for the sleeping troll. So what we'll do here is players might be a bit wary of the troll, especially if they're children. So that they might try to throw the apple at the troll, throw the apple from a distance, which would be a valid thing to do. So throw apple or give apple, which is what we tried earlier. So if we throw the apple or give the apple to the troll, and if we are beside the troll, and this is why it's important to keep the troll and the sleeping troll as two separate objects, because this logic doesn't really make sense for a sleeping troll. It only makes sense for the troll that's not sleeping. So if we're beside, not the sleeping troll, but if we're beside the troll, And then this is the tough part, but actually I skimmed past it over here. The ampersand means and. So it means this condition must be true and this condition must be true. So we should be carrying the apple. So if we're beside the troll and if we're carrying the apple, then we can do a troll swap. So we'll print out the troll grabs the apple greedily. Unfortunately for the troll, the apple is, sorry, I switched off word wrap. The apple is an enchanted apple and sends the troll straight to sleep. Sorry, I probably didn't need that many words. But now what we need to do is to get rid of the troll, get rid of the enormous troll, and swap the troll with the sleeping troll. Now, you could do that with 2 commands. We could destroy the troll, and we could create. And to get these commands again, I press Control Space. I type the first few letters of the command I'm looking for. So if I type in DES, I get destroy. I just press Enter. I press Control Space in here, and I select the troll. And I can type in CRE here, create, and I can create the sleeping troll. So that's one way to do it. You could destroy and create, or you could just do swap. And this is a very common operation, so it's nice to have this all in one. So I could swap the troll, and if I press tab, it goes straight into here for the sleeping troll. So the sleeping troll was not existing, the troll was existing, and it switches them. And if you want to redescribe the screen at this point in time, you're going to have to stop the player from essentially, if you refresh the screen, you won't see the print message. So after the print message, it helps to put a press any key. Then if we redescribe the screen, what it will do is it will show us the location again. It will refresh the entire screen, and it will show us that we have the sleeping troll instead of the troll. Now, if you remember back to the barrier, the block is only existing when the troll exists, not the sleeping troll. So when we swapped out the troll for the sleeping troll, we made the troll not exist. So we'll see that right now. So I'm going to just pick the apple, take an apple from the tree. If I go north, now if I give the apple, troll grabs. Okay. Now you can see here that it's waiting for the player either to click the screen or to press enter, but it's waiting. Now if I just click, it's refreshed the entire screen, and you can see now there's a sleeping troll. I can go north, I win the game. So that's a very basic implementation of a very simple game with 1 or 2 puzzles, depending on how you want to define a puzzle. Now, there's a lot of creative thinking that goes into even a simple game like this, which is, what's the motivation of the character? The character wants to get inside the cave. What's the motivation of the troll? The troll is hungry. How does the player know that the troll is hungry? Well, you have to inform the player of that. So there's a lot of thinking that goes in there, and there's you can get as elaborate as you wish inside these match blocks. So obviously, inside the written tutorial A, there are kind of additional exercises to make this game better. But you can think there's a lake there, right? We didn't really do anything with the lake. The player might try to swim in the lake, but the game doesn't know about swimming. But if you want to make the game know about swimming, you can code in swimming inside these match blocks, so you can make the game as basic or as complex as you wish. And I think that's it for the demonstration of Adventuron, the hands-on demo. So I'll go to the final slide and I'll take any questions. So
thanks, Chris. We've just got a specific question about apples first. When the apple's given to the troll, is it automatically removed from the pocket, or does this have to be coded or added to the code?
Ah, all right. Yeah, you very good question. So I missed something out here. So the person who asked the question, I don't know their name, but the person who asked the question is entirely right. Now in the actual game, you have to destroy the apple. So if I go south here and if I pick the apple, then if I take the inventory, so I'm carrying an apple. Now if I go north, now if I give the apple, what should happen is that the troll has eaten the apple has disappeared. But if we look at the inventory again, the apple is still there. So this is actually a bug. So what I have to do is destroy the apple. The game doesn't know that the apple was to be destroyed because the apple, it's only in the description that tells you the apple is destroyed. So yeah, that's good point. Good point.
Thank you, Chris. We're probably going to have to come to the end there. Do you want to put your final slide? Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, that's the final slide, and if anybody wants to take a photo of that, there's lots of links in there. And
That's fine.
yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, well, we'll share these slides anyway afterwards. So I will get those to you, people who have attended. Obviously, look on Twitter because I've just tweeted about Adventuron. Adventuron is how you say it. I've just been saying it wrong all this time, so thanks for that, Chris.
Okay.
So just thanks for joining us today, everybody, and thank you so much, Chris, for presenting. I thought it was amazing. I may be a bit biased because I really find it really interesting. I'll be watching it over the video. Actually, it's a good job that's available and doing it slowly and pressing pause quite a few times to it.
I'm sorry it was so fast.
Yeah, but it's brilliant, Chris. You went through absolutely everything. So no, and they're all getting the video afterwards anyway. So absolutely, but you know, it was a whistle stop tour, and that's brilliant. Everybody else, please share on social media your highlights of Chris's presentation. So it's like it says there, at Learn Adventuring, and share on the CAS website and on the CAS Facebook groups. We've got CAS secondary and a CAS primary, but you know, like I say, I love this. So, and you know, I want more people to find out about it. So it'd be great if you could share. At the end of this webinar, a short survey will appear on the screen. We'd be grateful if you can take a minute to complete it. Additionally, in about a week's time, you'll receive an email with a CPD certificate confirming your attendance at this session. Like I mentioned, a recording of this webinar will be available on the CAS website for people like me in the near future, in about a week, actually. Hope to see you at the other sessions in the showcase. Please do continue to spread the word about the first ever CAS Virtual Showcase and, you know, how brilliant Adventuron is. Thanks for joining. Thanks so much, Chris. It was a brilliant. And hope to see everyone next time.
Thank you. All right.
Thanks very
Take
much.
care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.